This month started with a bloodletting in WWE. 18 talent releases at the beginning of this month, including names like Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, who, in the case of Kross, relatively recently only first got called up to the main roster. Keith Lee had been around for a little while, but obviously he was sick and he was gone for a while. But two people who, when they were signed by WWE and they were made the NXT champion at different points during their run in NXT, people had high hopes for. People could look at a guy like Keith Lee or Karrion Kross and say, these are guys who could be upper echelon names on Raw or SmackDown in the future. These two have the potential to be stars on the main roster. WWE felt differently for them and 16 others. So that happened at the beginning of this month. On top of all of the other names that have been fired so far this year, including some pretty big ones. Now you can add 8 more victims to the pile of bodies, bringing the total number of wrestlers released this year alone by WWE to 80. 80. You can fill the rosters of at least 3 or 4 different promotions with the number of people that WWE has released in 2021, which illustrates just how aggressive they've been over the past several years, signing talents, a lot of them just to keep them away from other companies like AEW. Talents that, in most cases, they had no real plans for. Just stockpiling them like weapons for some imaginary war. And a lot of these people are going to be better off outside WWE than they were inside. But there doesn't seem to be any real rhyme or reason or logic to a lot of the names that they have been cutting. For every performance center or developmental NXT name that maybe you, or even I in some cases, haven't really heard of, maybe they haven't made their debut yet. You know, it's sad when anybody loses their job, but it's like, all right, well, that person, hadn't even had a match yet. Whatever, they're trying to trim some of the fat. That's very different than what we have been seeing over the past year plus in this company. It is a mix of not only those names, the lower level names, the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, but other bigger middle of the card and even upper card names that you look at and you scratch your head and say, how is it that this company saw no value or no added value for some of these people? How could they just let them go so easily? How could they debut them or re-debut them if they were gone for a while on television and then just poof, they're gone? Does one hand not know what the other hand is doing? The question is, what is going on behind the scenes in this company? Because it just seems like pure fucking chaos right now. And some people have no idea what's going on. People who actually work for the company have absolutely no idea what's going on here. We hear a lot these days about the forbidden door in pro wrestling. With WWE, it's the revolving door. And out the door this week, when all 3 remaining members of Hit Row, just weeks after they were called up to SmackDown, only 2 weeks after they lost B-Fab, they now join her on the unemployment line. John Morrison, Johnny Drip Drip. I think it's time to call a plumber to plug up that leaky faucet because he's gone. Teagan Knocks, Drake Maverick, Shane Thorne, and Jackson Riker. John Laurinaitis dropping the most dangerous finishing move in all of WWE on them. The budget cut. That is the go-to explanation they've been giving people, and this time around it was no different. It's just budget cuts, kid. It's just budget cuts. Nearly all of them hired by or projects of one Paul Levesque, who we got a glimpse of for the first time this week in 2 months since his cardiac event. He was looking a lot slimmer in a video that was shot of some of the executives touring the site of the new WWE headquarters that they're moving into later this year. Later next year. It's only about 2 miles away from their current headquarters in Stamford, but I was amused by the sight of Vince McMahon wearing a WWE logo hard hat on the site. Everything has to have branding in this company. But I happened to be live on YouTube Thursday night when the news broke. We were celebrating the 14-year anniversary of this podcast. And thank you, by the way, to everybody who joined. We were having a good old time when the news broke of all the releases, and that sort of took the wind out of our sails. But I was kind of happy that I was live, because at least I was able to jump right into it and give my thoughts. But I wanted to spend a little more time on it here, because now we also have more information and more feedback. And kind of their side of the story from some of the people who got cut. And we'll start here with all 3 remaining members of Hit Row gone. Hit Row became Death Row a lot faster than even I thought. I at least thought they'd have a few months before it would all come to a crashing halt. This was even quicker than I thought. They're setting new records here for how quickly they turn around and fuck all this stuff up. Isaiah Swerve Scott, Ashanti the Adonis, and Top Dollar. Now Dollar General. Top Dollar, AJ Francis, it is worth noting, and I thought about this just like all of you. The first thing I thought of when I heard that Hit Row was gone from WWE, I thought of AJ Francis, and I thought of his tweet from the beginning of October when the announcement was first made about them being drafted from NXT to SmackDown. A lot of people were very down on it, not because they hated Hit Row, and this is the point that I made. If you listen to my NXT reviews every week, then you know that I was a big fan of Hit Row. I was a big fan of all 4 of them together as a group. I thought it was cool. I thought it was different. I was happy that Swerve finally had something to do after meandering around in NXT for so many months and doing nothing. So I was a big fan of Hit Row, and I had the same concerns that a lot of you had. And rightfully so. And by the way, every time we talk about these concerns, and then WWE turns around and does something like this, all it does is reinforce everything I've talked about here on this show, and why I am concerned when somebody who I like, or I think has a world of potential, gets picked to go from NXT to either Raw or SmackDown. Because, again, for every Bianca Belair or Damian Priest who has found success so far, anyway, on the main roster, there are a bunch of other talented people every bit as good as them who don't. For reasons that don't make any sense. So, a lot of people were voicing concerns about it, and this apparently rubbed AJ Francis the wrong way. And he went on Twitter at the time and he said, "Stop comparing us to other people who couldn't transition to the main roster. We can promo. Thanks, management." Now, if he would have gone on Twitter and said, "Look, I understand that, you guys enjoyed what we were doing in NXT, but I promise you, don't worry about it. We got this. We're going to go to SmackDown, light the world on fire, do NXT proud." Something like that. There wouldn't have been any issue. But he goes and he says, "Stop comparing us to other people who couldn't transition to the main roster." There is a difference between being confident and being arrogant. Especially when you're putting down other people. And he may say, "Well, that wasn't my intent, people twisting my words." His words were plain as day. Especially when you are putting down other people who work just as hard as you did, if not harder, to try to make it to the top and to be a success in this company. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Some people are going to transition to the main roster and it's just not going to work out. But in a lot of cases, a lot of these people don't get the opportunities that maybe they had in NXT, or that other people might have, or they get a little bit of a push and then all of a sudden they get no TV time, and it's kind of hard to get over when you're not on TV. There's various reasons why a lot of people get called up and they end up being failed projects. But to say, don't compare us to them because, they weren't good enough. We can talk. We can promo. We'll be all right. It was just a stupid fucking thing for him to say. And there were a lot of people who said that's going to come back to bite him on the ass. Now, I think at the time I said I give him 6 months. I think is what I said. So, again, I'm increasingly impressed by the swiftness with how WWE, kind of nips these things in the bud. They took care of this a lot quicker than I thought they would. But I knew the moment I saw that he tweeted that this was going to come back to bite the guy. Top Dollar shot his mouth off, and he got fired after wrestling exactly one match on SmackDown. It was a tag team match. That was it. And there's an old saying that applies here. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. It was a stupid thing for him to say then, and he looks even worse for it now. Look at Isaiah Swerve Scott. Shane Strickland, he debuted 2 years ago in NXT. Had a great run as Killshot on Lucha Underground. He was all over the place, I think. Lucha Underground, MLW. He was everywhere. He was a hot commodity on the independent scene, a very talented guy. He could wrestle, he could talk. So he signs with WWE. He debuts 2 years ago in NXT. About 2.5 years ago. Hit Row is formed in May of this year. He wins the North American Championship the following month, so already Hit Row is paying dividends for Swerve Scott. He then goes on to never defend it, and having pretty much the worst North American title reign of any of the champions they've had so far, through no fault of his own, before being drafted to SmackDown last month. Then he defended it finally, and he lost it. Or technically he won, and then Carmelo Hayes, cashed in his title opportunity and then beat him for it. But they took the championship off of him because he was going up to SmackDown. This all happened last month, and then on Thursday he gets released. That is what they did with Shane Strickland. That was the life cycle for Swerve Scott in WWE. That is how the last 2.5 years of this man's career played out. If that happened in any other company, that promoter would be branded as brain dead. So please tell me what makes Vince McMahon any different than any other brain dead promoter who doesn't know their ass from their elbow when it comes to a talent like Shane Strickland. According to Meltzer, to go back to AJ Francis, he supposedly rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in NXT, and that was happening apparently on the main roster as well. He was getting a rep, I guess, for, quote, being difficult to work with or to deal with. And Meltzer says that he was the one that Vince McMahon saw as the star of the group because of his size. And that's something that PW Insider reported weeks ago before Meltzer even said that. Because it was PW Insider that said the plan was for Top Dollar to be the single star of the group. And it would be Swerve and Adonis penciled in as the tag team, which was the opposite of how it was in NXT. In NXT, Swerve was the star, and Top Dollar was tagging with Adonis, which worked better, I thought, the whole big man, smaller man dynamic. But the way Meltzer talks about it in the Observer this week, it sounds like once the decision was made to get rid of Francis because they didn't like him, and he was, I guess, annoying them, they saw no value in the other two, and they lost their jobs as a result. That's how that reads to me. And think about how absurd that is. I mean, all due respect to Ashanti the Adonis, he was fine, but Swerve Scott, to look at these three men and say, okay, Top Dollar is rubbing people the wrong way, so we're going to get rid of him. And so therefore we have no, interest in keeping someone like Swerve Scott around. We don't see the value in keeping somebody like him around. These are the decisions that these people are making. I want you to think about that and how absurd that sounds. Especially after investing 2.5 years in this guy. That's what they thought of him. All along, the truth finally reveals itself that this is what this man was destined for. And if Top Dollar did not get released, Swerve Scott, maybe he would have had a job for a while, but he would have been somewhere down, down the card or stuck in a tag team somewhere. That's where he would have been slotted. That is where they saw his value. Now, in his own defense, Francis has not gone quietly into the night here. He quote tweeted another website's coverage of the Observer report, what Dave said, and this is how he responded. Here's what rubs people the wrong way. Standing up for your own. When Brianna was released, that's BFAB, and I called the office myself to tell them that they made a mistake. Standing up for yourself. People in the PC told me Hit Row wouldn't work for 1.5 years, and I never took their advice. Trust me, I got plenty of stories I can tell about how I was disrespected, but just took it on the chin like a professional. Even with the video I released today, it was all professionalism. But I'm not gonna let these BS reports ruin my reputation. I got tea I can spill too. Now what he was referring to there is a diss track that he released on Jinder Mahal. Since the last time we saw Hit Row on TV, I had thought it was the segment they did with Sami Zayn a few weeks ago. I had forgotten about the whole Jinder Mahal Shanky segment. I tried to block it out maybe. Where they came up with their own cheesy rap on Hit Row, and Top Dollar went and released a diss track on social media that he later took down because I guess people thought it was insensitive, so I said I have to listen to this. So I did, and I want to read the lyrics to you here. I mean, Solomonster always... rapping is a great way to spend your Sundays. So credit to WrestlingNews.co for the transcription, so I didn't have to listen to it a second time and write it all out. But here's what Top Dollar had to say in response to Jinder Mahal that I guess people thought was insensitive in some way. To all you lames, you'd rather stay in your lane than play these games. Maharaja means prince, and you ain't that. The way you rap, it's clear you hate rap. I state facts. Ain't you the guy from 3MB? With COVID-19, you wouldn't be an ill MC. Good Lord. You used to be a champion, and that's embarrassing. You're arrogant, and I mean, you're clearly a hater. I'd rather rap with Heath Slater. I'm like Curry from 3 when I'm grilling beef. Get it? Curry beef. It must be an emergency because if you're spitting purposely, I'm Top Dollar. Your bottom rupee. If it was currency, I need a bit of urgency because Jinder's bars sound like he never heard the beat. Speaking of beats, I need to go and run it back. And then he replayed, I guess, the segment or part of the segment with Jinder and Shanky. What the fuck is that? Shanky, it looks like it hurts when you walk, and we can definitely tell that it hurts when you talk. This beef is looking like a walk in the park. Sorry, not sorry that I pulled the thread on ya. Sorry to start. And now just like that, cloth y'all is falling apart. God. I don't see what's insensitive about it, but that's the world for you today. If people didn't have something to be offended about, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. I don't know if I could top that, but we're gonna move on here. But Adonis and Top Dollar appeared on Busted Open Radio the other day. And hat tip to WrestleZone for this transcription. They had some very interesting things to say that I think are worth getting into here. Ashanti, this is what he said. This tells you, again, to go back to the whole chaotic nature of how things are behind the scenes in this company. Adonis said Thursday morning was weird because we were booked for SmackDown, Survivor Series, and Raw, and then we were unbooked, and then they booked us again, and then we were unbooked. So I'm thinking, okay, this is what goes on in WWE. There's a lot of things to figure out. So I thought maybe they'll have something for us and we'll fly out Saturday or something like that. But I remember watching Thursday Night Football and I missed the call from John Laurinaitis. I called him back and he told me budget cuts and stuff like that. And I just told him, thank you. It is what it is. This company's entire creative motto is plans change. And yet, people still bash Meltzer when he says plans changed. As if he just makes shit up for shits and giggles. I mean, sometimes he gets stuff wrong. Yes, he's not infallible, but all the people who love to mock him and the whole, oh, plans change. As if plans don't fucking change in this company every day. Here's yet another example of it. AJ added that they went to WWE headquarters recently and they had meetings about getting action figures. They would be a DLC in the new 2K video game. And he said everything got pulled out from underneath us. He said WWE got mad that he called the office and asked why they released BFAB. He says he told them BFAB made them unique and that removing her made them just like any other three-man group. Which is exactly what I've been saying. He also said they wanted to remix their entrance song without B-Fab, so they went and re-recorded it on their own, which apparently upset the company as well. He said, we went in the studio and made a new song. I guess they were upset that we made a new song, but we're a rap group, so it's like, how are we a rap group if we can't make a song? Then we're just wrestlers. He said, people want to bring up the fact about the song I released for Jinder and Shanky on Twitter that people got mad about, but Jinder himself not only loved the song, but said, and I have proof of it, that I said nothing wrong in the song. This is Jinder saying this. The whole point of it was the fact that we were in a feud together and we were trying to get more juice in the feud. Me and Jinder are cool. That was the whole point of it. When people are like, oh, the best he used, or the beat he used, rather, was insensitive. The beat that I used is called Beware by Punjabi MC, the most famous Indian sample in hip-hop. And when I picked the beat, Jinder Mahal was sitting next to me in the locker room when we formulated the plan to do this. So it's like, for people to be upset with me and think that that's the reason we got fired is ridiculous, because even Jinder himself went and talked to them and was like, no, it's not like this, we planned this together. Now, he had posted those tweets about I got tea to spill and kind of teasing that there may have been some other shit that went down that he could talk about. He did mention to Busted Open a situation where he was preparing, I guess, for a segment on SmackDown, one of the three that they fucking had since they got called up. And he noticed that the audio was too high. And he says that he politely asked to turn the audio down. And while he didn't directly hear the response himself, something very rude was said on the headsets. And he said that it was bad enough that 3 other producers came up to him and apologized for whatever it was that was said, even though he never heard it himself. And he said that if he would have heard that and replied to it, he would have been labeled as disgruntled and aggressive and the angry black guy. So, and by the way, I can totally believe that that happened. But again, he says he didn't hear it himself. But why would 3 producers come up to him and say, shit, sorry about that. It was probably, who knows who it was. Got Kevin Dunn in everybody's ears. He's probably sitting in the truck like the fucking emperor over there. Fucking moron. But anyway, that ends the run of Hit Row in WWE. What might have been. I don't know how far they would have gone. I don't know if Top Dollar would have broken out eventually as a single star. If Swerve would have gotten a shot to be, Intercontinental Champion one day or something. But the point is they had something special in NXT. And it took Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and the geniuses in WWE, only took them a few weeks to completely ruin it and run them off. John Morrison. Another name, gone from WWE. And this is only a few weeks after his wife, Taya, who is Frankie Monet in NXT, was fired. So both members of the household gone and fired by the same company within a matter of weeks. Morrison hadn't really been doing anything recently on TV since Miz and he split up and Miz went off to go do Dancing with the Stars. And Morrison's been sitting in the back doing meditation sessions on TV because they couldn't figure out what to do with him outside of him still doing that dripstick shit. They have him running around with fucking water guns like he's 12 years old, hosting Moist TV and doing comedy. So naturally they looked at him and said, well, we're not doing anything with this guy, and so we can just get rid of him. Now what's shitty about this whole situation is that he and his wife had moved recently from LA to Orlando because she had to train at the Performance Center. She had to be based in Florida, so they moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, only for them to turn around and fire her. So you can understand why she would be so upset, and she went off on them on Twitter, and rightfully so. And she said, stop supporting a company that has zero respect for their talent. You love pro wrestling. Spend your money on the hundreds of other alternatives. This is wrong. Ethically, as employers, they don't care about us, the talent or the fans. And later on, because people were tweeting back at her, all the WWE sycophants out there attacked her. They went on the attack. Because apparently Vince McMahon slips them a check every week and pays them for their public relations defense. You would think these people were being paid by WWE. They're so defensive about them anytime somebody says something negative. So she was responding to people. She said, fuck them. My husband got fired. This is why I'm saying this. I'm speaking my truth. I'm sick and tired of people treating us like shit. In 2 weeks, we both lost our incomes. Before the holidays, I'm allowed to feel how I do. And she is 100% right. I mean, holidays or not, there's never a fun time for something like that to happen. But in this case, you had 2 people with 2 incomes in the same household losing that income. Now, they're going to go somewhere. They're going to do well. They'll land on their feet. But it's a shitty situation, and she has every right to be upset. And if she wants to go on her social media and vent and be upset, then she has the right to do that. Teagan Knocks. Teagan Knocks is an unfortunate case. Teagan Knocks was beset by knee injuries, plagued by knee injuries her entire time with WWE. She was going to win the Mae Young Classic. They had her pegged, supposedly, to win the entire thing. That was when her knee exploded in the match with Rhea Ripley. I mean, it was a catastrophic knee injury. I can't even list all of the injuries just from that one bump out of the ring. And she was gone for a very long time, but she had reconstructive knee surgery and ACL surgery on both knees. And fought to come back, came back, was paired off with Shotzi Blackheart and called up to SmackDown. And of course, they had wins over the Women's Tag Team Champions, and yet they never got their Women's Tag Team Championship match. And then they split them up, and they put them on different brands. And Shotzi stayed on SmackDown, and Teagan went to Raw, never made a single appearance. And so, if you're Teagan Knocks, and I've said before, you know, when she got hurt the last time, I said, it's hard not to look at this woman and label her as injury prone. And if you're WWE, are you really going to feel comfortable putting her in a position, let's say on Raw or on SmackDown, where she is in the thick of things? She's in the mix with the Charlotte Flairs and the Sasha Bankses and the Baileys and the Beckys and everybody else. Or, you know, put her in the women's main event on night 1 of WrestleMania, you know, in a couple of years or something, and run the risk of her, you know, hurting her knee again. It's something that I'm sure was on their mind. And I question what kind of future she really had in this company. And if she was going to be able to come back. To her credit, she fought like hell. She came back. And I'm sure it's demoralizing for her to put all that time and effort into rehab and to fight back and to come back and to get that call to come up and then just have it taken away from you. So it's just it's a shitty situation for her to be in. But this is something that could have easily been predicted. If anything, I was shocked she got called up to begin with. I never thought they would even give her that. I thought they would just look at her and go, we can't do anything with her. She's too injury prone. Drake Maverick, he got cut. Was it last year or earlier this year? It might have been earlier this year. He got swept up in one of these big waves of releases and put that very emotional video out on social media where he was crying, and he ended up getting his job back. I mean, it created this groundswell, went viral, and it created this groundswell of support for him on social media, and he got his job back, and now he's gone for good. He ain't getting his job back this time, but I have to give him a lot of credit because obviously he knew that this might happen. And he put together this really well-produced video that he just had waiting in his back pocket because even Drake Maverick knew that the hammer would eventually fall on him again, as it does with a lot of people in this company. He was smart enough to understand that. So when he got the call from Johnny Ace, he put a video up that was very well produced. Even John Cena quote tweeted it out to his however many million followers he has and gave him a lot of praise. And it was basically, you know, Rockstar Spud kind of giving a pep talk to Drake Maverick, you know, with the power of some very sophisticated editing here in this video, telling him, you know, stop crying. You're going to be fine. You're going to do great. Trying to lift his spirits. It's worth going out of your way to watch. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long, but obviously he thought what a lot of people thought, which is that this was inevitable and he was going to get cut again, and that's exactly what happened. Shane Thorne. Shane Thorne was done the moment that he was rebranded as Slapjack. You can't rebrand somebody as Slapjack and expect them to stick around for very long. Honestly, his goose was cooked the minute that his tag team partner decided he wanted to go back to Australia. And that really was the beginning of the end for Shane Thorne. He stuck around longer than I thought he would. But the moment he became Slapjack, his career was done in this company. And then Jackson Riker, I can't say that really bothers me all that much. I was never really, a big fan of any of the Forgotten Son shit they were doing with him and the other two guys in WWE. Although the other two, I think, could have been a perfectly capable tag team on SmackDown. Another act that got called up to the main roster and was immediately just like Sanity. I mean, you can now put Sanity, the Forgotten Sons, and Hit Row pretty much all on the same list. It is a cautionary tale if you are part of a group getting called up to the main roster. Adam Cole made the right decision bailing on this company when he did, because he knew, even if Undisputed Era had stuck around and had been kept together and not broken up, there was no future for them on that main roster. Even he was smart enough to see that. I hope Kyle O'Reilly is smart enough to see the writing on the wall for him as well when his contract comes due next month. But Jackson Riker, they tried to give him a little bit of a push, the stuff with Elias, and it was just fucking terrible. That was an inevitable cut at some point. Nearly all of these people, I made this point earlier, were hired by or pushed by Paul Levesque at one time or another. These were Triple H's people. I mean, outside of Morrison, who went right back to the main roster, these were Triple H's people. And the more of these people that get pushed out, the louder the message that it sends about where Triple H stands in the pecking order in that company. Brick by brick, piece by piece, between a lot of these releases and them blowing up his beloved NXT in the way that they have, they are erasing the legacy of Triple H that he has spent the last 6 or 7 years building. You may be of the mindset that that's a good thing, that him stockpiling all these indie guys and trying to create this big super indie was a terrible thing, and it was in many ways for the independent scene, and I told you it would be when he started doing that many years ago. But what he did was he put together this incredible collection of talent that made NXT a lot of fun to watch. Because yes, it was very kind of indie-centric in that a lot of the people who were stars there were stars outside of WWE first. They had an established name, they were very experienced. Some of them came in literally with well over a decade of experience. But they still had some people on there that also were, projects of theirs from the PC, whether it was Baron Corbin, people like that were mixed in. And we had that sort of glory period of NXT there for a while. You may be of the mindset that them erasing Triple H's legacy and all of this is a good thing. Or you may think that that's a very bad thing. Regardless of what you think, you cannot deny the fact that it is happening. It can no longer be denied or deemed some kind of crackpot conspiracy theory. The proof is right in front of your faces. Open your eyes. This is what is going on. And I was left after I heard about all of this, all these latest releases, because I was thinking about where he's been. And I thought, what must Samoa Joe be thinking right now? Samoa Joe, who was fired by WWE earlier this year after working WrestleMania at the announce booth, only for Triple H to come in and say, come work for me. These people don't know what the hell they're doing. I'll bring you back to NXT. And he re-signs. The company fires him, and he re-signs with them under the NXT brand. And Triple H puts him back on TV. He ends up getting back in the ring. He wins the NXT Championship from Karrion Kross. I don't know what the supposed medical issue was that necessitated taking the title off of him, if he is still dealing with a medical issue or if they're just trying to figure out what to do with him. The fact is, he doesn't fit in the new NXT. And obviously he doesn't fit on the main roster because if they thought there was value in him and they didn't see him as injury prone, they wouldn't have fired him. His injury history and his age work against him. So he's got to look at this, and what must he be thinking right now? He's thinking, I've made a terrible mistake, is what he must be thinking. I don't know how long that NXT deal is that he signed. But he's got to be looking at this going, what the fuck have I done? Little did he know when he signed that new contract what would happen. Not just in terms of all these additional releases, but that Triple H, who believed in him, would basically be usurped. And NXT, as he knew it, would be blown up and turned into, fucking Teletubby show. So I don't know what his future holds, but boy did he fuck up going back there. You could have had the triumvirate as free agents this year of Samoa Joe, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson. Believe me, Samoa Joe, even with his injury history, would have been a hot commodity and could have commanded top dollar from any promotion that he wanted to go to. And even if he can't work in the ring anymore, wants to wind down his in-ring career. There are a few people in wrestling today that are better on the microphone than Samoa Joe. There is absolutely a role for him, but clearly not in this company. The good news is that there is a whole world outside of WWE where a lot of these people can thrive. The beneficiaries are all of the independent promotions that now find this wealth of new talent available. Companies like AEW and Impact and New Japan. Look at Jonah Rock, the former Bronson Reed, being one of these people I'm talking about. He popped up last weekend at the New Japan Battle in the Valley show where he confronted Moose, and then he beat up Juice Robinson and David Finlay. Last night, he made his Impact debut at their Turning Point show. He destroyed Josh Alexander. He left him laying in a pool of his own blood. Now he's just going by Jonah. Whether it's John Morrison or Shane Strickland, Keith Lee, they're going to be better off outside WWE. This will end up being a positive for them because clearly they were on the road to nowhere there. But it also sends a message that this is really, Impact may have had a Turning Point show, but this is a real turning point right now in wrestling. Because if you are a wrestler on the ascent, if you are a wrestler making a name for yourself on the independent scene, if you're a veteran working for some company outside of WWE, you have to be looking at what's going on and asking yourself, why the fuck would I ever want to go work for that company? WWE used to be the destination. Vince McMahon talks about the brass ring, reaching for the brass ring. Everybody wanted to go to WWE. Everybody wanted to main event WrestleMania. That was the destination. That's what you work towards. That's changing now. I don't see how it can't be changing. How could anybody in their right mind look at this, what's been going on here, and feel comfortable signing a contract with a company that won't even honor that contract? As one-sided as these contracts are, you could sign a 10-year deal. It don't matter. Tell that to the Good Brothers or anybody else who's signed a 5-year contract or any kind of long-term contract. It ain't a long-term contract for you. It's a long-term contract for them so long as they like you. And the moment you fall out of favor with them or you outlive your usefulness, you're gone. There is no such thing in WWE as job security. So why in God's name would anybody even want to sign with that company and spend years there toiling away, wasting away their prime years is just beyond my comprehension. But more and more people have to be waking up to this fact.